And we are live here on a Monday afternoon from Studio 31 at City National Arena for Nighttime at Noon on Fox Sports Las Vegas and streaming all across the VGK digital channels. Justin Russo, Jamie Hersch with you here today to take you through the next hour and the Golden Knights preparing to host the Carolina Hurricanes. But Jamie, this is your Nighttime at Noon debut. How does it feel to be in the seat for the first time?
It feels great. I'm pumped up. Let's go. We've got the Carolina Hurricanes in town, one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, taking on one of the best teams in the West in the Vegas Golden Knights, who are perfect at home still. I was working the last home game, actually, and it took it was a little tougher, right? They had to go to overtime to preserve that undefeated streak at home, but they sure did, and now they're 8-0, and their numbers are jaw-dropping at home.
Jaw-dropping indeed, and I like what you mentioned there about fighting away back at home. They had to do that a little bit on the most recent road trip against Edmonton and Seattle. We'll get to that in just a second here. I want to let you know we're going to have Gary Brunetti joining the show in just a bit. He is a U.S. Army veteran and assistant coach of the 10U Cavalry in the Vegas Hockey League right here at City National Arena. And we'll also have Bruce Cassidy's press conference audio from Morning Skate to get you set for tonight's game against Carolina. But, Jamie, going back to that road trip, they pick up 3 out of 4, and I think after the game against Seattle, while they did get that point, the general consensus around the locker room seemed to be, we could have picked up that extra. We wanted all 4.
Yeah, I talked to a bunch of guys yesterday who said they feel like they let it slip away. And it's too bad because you go back to that road trip where they went through Florida, right, and ended up not coming away with a win in either of those 3 or any of those 3 games. And in 2 of those games, they led really late, and they felt the same way. Like, they let it slip away. And so it's kind of, I think it's a bit deceiving when you look at their road numbers and their road record, because I feel like they deserved better in 2 of those 3 games. Sure. They didn't play well in Washington. We know that. They didn't deserve to win that one. But they did deserve to win the Tampa game, let it slip away late. Florida, you could say the same thing. They got the 1 point in overtime in Florida. But now, you look at this most recent road trip, and they would have loved to have 2 wins.
Yep.
They do feel like, at least we got a point because they were able to tie it up late, but they had a 2-0 lead. That's the part that you feel bad about, that you let that slip away. And so that's how they're looking at it. But then they come home and they've got, all kinds of confidence at home. That's one of the biggest takeaways for the whole NHL so far, is how good Vegas is at home.
8-0 at home so far, and I think for that Seattle game as well, a lot of the guys mentioned, and Bruce Cassidy certainly mentioned it, that this was a Seattle team that had been on the road, and they were in a similar situation coming back home like the Golden Knights found themselves in after that first road trip, where they came back home, they're feeling a little more comfortable, and they were able to get that win there. But, going back to the Edmonton game, though, there was so much made going into that game of the struggles on the road for the Golden Knights, and I think it was more so on the outside than the inside, because it was such a small sample size, and the guys were thinking, okay, we'll get things going here eventually. But I think that game was cathartic, if you will, for the Golden Knights, and the way they did it as well coming back in the third.
Absolutely. And anytime you can get 2 points in the division, I mean, that's huge. And especially the fact that they weren't really probably expecting to face Connor McDavid. Remember, his initial timeline was 2 to 3 weeks, and I think it ended up being just over 1 week, and he was indeed back on the ice in time to face Vegas. But that makes you feel even better, right? Like Aiden Hill, I talked to him yesterday. He said the same thing. He's like, I'm glad Connor was back, because then, I felt better about it. All the guys felt better about it. Like, this is a tough team. This is the defending Western Conference champions, the Edmonton Oilers. And They took them down in their barn, 4-2. Got their first road win of the season, and then backed up with 1 point in Seattle. So this is a tough month. Like we've talked about it for a long time now here around these parts. That this is going to kind of be a make or break month, not of the season, but certainly in terms of how they feel about their road game, because there are 9 games in the month of November that are going to take place away from T-Mobile Arena. They've gone through 2 of them now, and so they still have quite a few coming up. And the dad's trip is this next one, which should be really exciting. That usually lends itself a bit of a boost for the team.
Yeah, and you'd think so too, but the guys always seem to be more comfortable when the dads are around, getting family in town. We heard from William Carlson on the radio side of things saying his family was going to be in town for 10 days, and then his dad would go on the dad's trip as well. But looking at that Seattle game as well, and in terms of the individuality and some of the key pieces for the Golden Knights, a lot was made of Mark Stone not being in that game and what that meant for the VGK. But boy, you look at Nick Waugh stepping into that role, and Bruce Cassidy's decision to not move too many pieces around. He moved Nick Waugh up to keep things down the lineup pretty even, but what can you say about Nick Waugh's performance in that game? A couple of points early on.
I mean, there's so much to say about him because this is a guy that spent the bulk of his career on a fourth line, right? But we've known that this is one of the best fourth lines in hockey.
Yep.
And so what happens when one of your top 6 goes down? You elevate a guy from the fourth line to the first line. And, we know that anyone who plays with Jack is going to be better, right? You're going to have the Jack effect, and you're probably going to get a few extra points just because you're with Jack Eichel, who's one of the elite players right now in the game. But Nick Waugh, I've been really impressed with just everything about him, how he's handled himself, and certainly the leadership aspect that we've seen him, kind of take an even bigger role in the room this year, I think. So the fact that he's getting rewarded for all of that with top line minutes, and certainly rewarded in terms of the score sheet as well, I think is really exciting, and can't wait to see him back on there tonight.
And the guy that gives them another center option on that top line, and it just makes things so much easier for Jack Eichel as well. We've heard it talked about on the second line with Tomas Hertl and Brett Howden, how Hertl can play down low a little bit more. He can feel a little bit more comfortable, maybe not having to get out of that offensive zone quick enough, because Brett Howden can overtake those center responsibilities coming down the ice, and he can be a little bit more comfortable. And it just gives them so many more options on the top 6, with Nick Waugh and Brett Howden up there. But we count Nick Waugh in a group of players among Keegan Colasar, Nick Waugh, Brett Howden, Pavel Dorofeev, guys that were counted on to step up in the absence of a lot of guys from last season, and it just continued. We mentioned a couple of points for Nick Waugh, but again, another goal for Pavel Dorofeev in Seattle, up to 8 now.
That's incredible. Yeah, leads the team, right? And Barbashev had that title for almost all the season. He's slowed down just a little bit, but meanwhile, it's been Dorofeev stepping up, and that's exactly what you need when you go through the grind of an 82-game regular season, and certainly down the stretch when you start playoffs and try to go all the way to the Stanley Cup final. You need depth scoring. That was the difference a couple of years ago when Vegas won the Stanley Cup. They were the deepest team in hockey. They were healthy at the right time. And if they can find that kind of depth scoring too, and now it's funny because it's not even as much depth scoring. They need those guys, like you said, to produce. It's a salary cap world, and guys are going to leave every single year. And so if you can kind of grow and cultivate that growth for the bottom 6, and then when they have the opportunity, you just hope for the best for them. And Brett Howden, oh my gosh, I mean, how much can we talk about him, because he's been incredible all season long, in the last home game especially, when he had 3-4 chances, eventually scored that massive goal, fresh legs off the bench in overtime. I mean, it's such a good story. And that's one of the things that I love about covering hockey, right? Is looking for the good stories and cheering for the guys behind the players themselves on the ice. And so when you see Brett Howden and the road he's taken to be here, and then now being rewarded with an incredible couple of moments so far this season, but certainly lots of minutes on the ice as well.
And I think that speaks to allowing some of these players to grow over the years, right? You see some of the guys go out that left from last season, and you just have an inclination to say, oh, we got to go get a 40-goal scorer. We got to go get this guy. We got to go get that guy to replace him. But they allowed all these guys to naturally more come into their roles, be it on the ice or in a leadership role off the ice as well, and they're paying dividends right now for this team.
Yeah, they sure are. And it's funny, I talked to Keegan Colasar maybe a week or so ago and asked him kind of what he's learned through the first chunk of the season, and he said, well, I think we learned that we answered questions about where the offense was going to come from, because that was the biggest question mark all off season. Everyone around the league is saying, how is Vegas going to find the offense? Well, that's been answered, right? They're second right now in terms of goals per game with 4.36. We talked about their numbers at home, 8-0, but beyond that, they have a goal differential at home of plus 24. It's
incredible.
Insane. Yeah, 5.38 goals per game for the Vegas Golden Knights at home right now. It's ridiculous kind of video game numbers. And so that question has certainly been answered.
Yeah.
And it's not a small sample size anymore. I mean,
No.
we're a month plus into the season now. So we've been able to see kind of the peaks and valleys of this team, and the goal scoring is there on a nightly basis.
And things trending in the right direction for the likes of Brett Howden, the likes of Pablo Dorfiev to hit career highs this year. And I think that question being answered was so big because you expect a Bruce Cassidy team to be able to figure it out defensively, right? We hear from Bruce Cassidy from day one in training camp. He wants to instill that defensive mentality in the team, and he wants it to be second nature when they're defending during the season. And some of those questions were on the goal scoring department, and to have that kind of well-rounded game already this early in the season, they have some things they want to work on defensively. They know it. Bruce Cassidy talked a bit about the rush defense after the game in Seattle that he wanted to clean up, but I think just to have that game all around, and just like last year, to be able to stack some of the points and just bank those points that they did early on can help you through some of the struggles that you might find later on that you just go through the course of the season.
Yeah, and I did get to ask Coach yesterday about the defense and where he sees it, and if he sees it from like an effort perspective, there's something lacking, or if it's just an execution mentality. And he said he has seen strides in the defensive game, certainly from the first few games of the season, and you expect that. You expect it to take some time, but I think that is one of the kind of points of contention right now, is that they need to be better at defending the stretch pass. And Carolina, look no further than tonight's opponent to talk about speed and trying to clamp down and get that rush defense really solidified, because this is going to be a challenge for Vegas for sure. They're a fast team too, right? The Golden Knights are, but they kind of do it differently. Carolina stretches the ice a bit more, and so it's definitely going to be a good test. But I think in talking to some of the players, they know that. You know, they know exactly how Carolina plays, and they're ready for it. So it should be a really fun contest tonight.
And I think a good combination of a Golden Knights team that recognizes the opponent and a team that is not feeling so good about what they did on Friday against Seattle. They wanted that extra point. They didn't get it, and now they want to come back and pick up a couple on home ice against the Carolina Hurricanes tonight. We will get back to some more Golden Knights talk in a little bit. We'll have Gary Brunetti joining the show in just a moment on our next segment. But before we take a break, I want to let you know that if you're in need of some VGK gear, you can keep your closet ready to go for the next VGK game by visiting the Arsenal at City National Arena or VegasTeamStore.com for all the VGK gears. We have a jersey being shown off by Gary right there on the side. Check out VGK Gear on Instagram and X for all the latest updates and deals on all Golden Knights gear. Rep your team with pride at the VGK Team Store. Back with more in a moment on Nighttime at Noon on Fox Sports Las Vegas. Welcome back into Nighttime at Noon on Fox Sports Las Vegas. And over here on Fox Sports Las Vegas right now, I want to let you know you can watch your Vegas Golden Knights this season on Nighttime Plus. Download Nighttime Plus today on your smartphone, tablet, computer, or TV to watch the Golden Knights live. Nighttime Plus delivers all locally televised games on Script Sports, as well as bonus content created throughout the season. Download and subscribe now to tune in all season long. Welcome back here on Nighttime at Noon. Wishing you all well on this Veterans Day. And we have Gary Brunetti joining the show, U.S. Army veteran, assistant coach of the 10U Cavalry in the Vegas Hockey League right here at City National Arena.
Yes, sir.
A lot we want to get to, Gary, but first of all, wishing you well on this Veterans Day, and how are you today?
It's my pleasure and honor. I'm absolutely fantastic. Had a great morning. We actually just finished putting up our U.S. flag in the front yard. My boys helped me cement it in the ground last night, and we actually had them raise it this morning and everything for the first time in our yard. And the boys and my wife took me out for breakfast. I'm doing good.
Aww.
So I'm happy, I'm full, and now I'm here with you guys.
And tonight you're going to go to a Golden Knights hockey game. I mean, what could be better than that? First,
thank you so much.
Yeah,
yes.
And I want to thank you for your service, too. I mean, we're just so in awe of all of our veterans out there, and it shouldn't just be one day, and always we appreciate everything that you've done and the sacrifice you've made.
It was my pleasure and an honor to serve. So.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yes,
and your
ma'am.
family for the sacrifice.
Yes, ma'am.
We got to ask you about what you're wearing because it's incredible. I mean, obviously we see the shield of the Golden Knights, but there's so much more to this. Hopefully we can pick up some of the details of this. Can you explain everything to us?
Yes, ma'am. So I walked into the Arsenal the other day, and this was when these jerseys, the Salute to Service jerseys, just came out. And my wife always purchases me one each year for Veterans Day. God bless her. She's awesome. She's my angel. So her name's Tanisha, by the way. And my boys are Michael and Malachi.
Nice.
Got to shout them out.
Yes, indeed, I do. And we saw this, and I saw the colors, and they immediately reminded me of my grandfather, who served in World War II. Flying B-17 bombers. He was 19 years old.
Wow.
His name is Jack D. Ruggles. And it just reminded me of their tan and browns in their uniforms back then.